There's a really potent legal performance enhancer that most of us have in our kitchen. This is sodium bicarbonate, or more commonly known as baking soda. And in this video I will talk about the evidence surrounding its supposed performance enhancing effect and how it actually might change the sport of running. And I will also try it myself. The 800-meter distance has gained a huge lift in times for the top athletes this last season, with 5 out of the 7 fastest runners ever on the distance coming from races this year. And many argue that it has to do with how widespread the use of sodium bicarbonate has become. One Olympic runner quoted in the Telegraph estimated that at least 80% of all elite runners have started using this. And that made me very curious, but it's often things like this can be really hyped and just forgotten about. But after I looked more into the evidence, I was pretty shocked. Before we start to look into all of these studies that covers if it actually works as a performance enhancer, let's talk about how would it make you run faster in the first place. So sodium bicarbonate works as a performance enhancer in a process called buffering. When you exercise at high intensity over that lactic threshold, it lowers the pH in your muscles, making them more acidic. And this is one of the things that will force you to run at a slower pace or stop running. But when you have consumed the sodium bicarbonate prior to your workout or race, it enters your bloodstream and basically helps neutralize the lactic acid. So in theory, by reducing acidity, sodium bicarbonate should help keep your muscles functioning better for a longer time at a higher intensity, allowing you to run faster and longer without feeling as tired. So all of this sounds logical and good in theory, but what does all of this evidence actually say about this? When I started researching this, I found a lot of different studies on the subject. And I was actually surprised to see that the first study on this subject actually dates all the way back to 1930, when they at Harvard University did a one-person study where sodium bicarbonate was provided before treadmill running. The authors concluded that performance was improved, but this was just a single person study which you shouldn't draw too big conclusions from. But as mentioned, there have been a lot of studies done since then. This review here on the subject from 2021 summarized a lot of studies on sodium bicarbonate's performance enhancing effect. And they wrote this about running. Running-based investigations have focused on distances ranging from the 400 meters to the 1500 meter, lasting from 57 to 254 seconds. For example, Wilkes et al. Included 6 male university runners who performed an 800-meter run following the ingestion of a placebo or 0.3 grams per kilogram of sodium bicarbonate. In this study, running time following placebo ingestions was on average 2 minutes and 5 seconds, and consumption of sodium bicarbonate reduced the time needed to complete the test on average by 2.9 seconds. Other studies reported an average reduction in the time required to complete 400 meters and 1500 meter runs of 1.5 seconds and 3 seconds. So it clearly seems like for most people it makes a significant difference when running all out on these kind of shorter middle distance running events. It might not sound like much with 1.4 to 3 seconds improvement, but on these distances, the 800 meters and 1500 meters, that's huge. And for elite runners, it can for sure be the difference of winning or losing important races. But what about running events that last way longer than these kind of middle distance all-out efforts? After reading more about this, I found that this supplement is not only used by the world's best middle distance runners. Kilian Jornet, the GOAT of ultra and trail running, has also used it when winning ultra marathons like the famous UTMB. However, the evidence regarding the performance-enhancing effects of sodium bicarbonate on running distances longer than 5 km is more limited. But it still suggests potential benefits, particularly when it comes to races that needs you to increase your effort to high intensities during the race and sprint by the end of it. But there were actually a recent study that I found really interesting that showed that it might have a big performance boosting effect on endurance efforts as long as 1 hour, even when you perform it on a steady state as a time trial. But to make sense out of the way that the participants in this study ingested the sodium bicarbonate, we first gotta talk about the side effects. Many of the studies that I refer to are a couple of years old, so why are there so much hype around it now, and seems to have been more and more athletes to start using it this last year? That's likely because there have been some pretty bad side effects that maybe one company have managed to solve. The most commonly reported side effect is gastrointestinal discomfort, which can include bloating, cramping, diarrhea, and nausea. And this is often due to the high dosage required for an effective buffering. And it kind of says itself that these kind of side effects are not ideal to deal with before an important race, and can for sure have a way worse impact on your performance than the potential performance enhancing effect you can get from the buffering. But as I said, one company has attempted to get rid of these side effects while keeping sodium bicarbonate's performance enhancing effect. And that company is Morten with this bicarb system. And full disclosure, I'm not affiliated with them by any way. I bought this myself because I've seen that this is the system that many elite runners seem to have started using. And what made me really curious on this whole system, that we'll get into more later, is that I found this study where they let athletes try this bicarb system before an all-out cycling 40-kilometer time trial, and then compare the result to when they just got a placebo. And first of all, out of the 14 athletes included in the study, 12 of them improved their time after taking sodium bicarbonate compared to when they just got the placebo supplement, which suggests that it also makes a significant difference on endurance efforts around 1 hour for most people. And what also were really interesting in that study was that they found no difference in total gastrointestinal discomfort or symptoms when using this Morten bicarb system. So I thought I need to try this out myself, and I will explain how this works and why it might get rid of those kind of side effects while I test it out. As I said, this bicarb system by Morten seems to be what many pro runners use. And the reason why this might get rid of those kind of gastrointestinal side effects is that Morten has this hydrogel mix that you mix the sodium bicarbonate with. And this gel structure is supposed to help shield the bicarb from the stomach acid and basically make it easier for the stomach to handle it. And it's the same kind of hydrogel that Morten has used in their carbohydrate sports drink to enable athletes to take in more carbs without getting stomach issues. And this has, for example, been used a lot by Eliud Kipchoge and other elite marathon runners. So let's test this. And my plan is to do high intensity 1 kilometer intervals times 5 to see how it feels after drinking or eating this kind of thing. It almost feels like a science project with all this like step-by-step instructions. So let's see how you're supposed to intake this. So I'm first supposed to add 200 milliliters of water to this one. Then I add this hydrogel. And then you're supposed to give it a good shake before you wait for 3 minutes. So now this has become this sort of thick gel structure, and I'm supposed to add this sodium bicarbonate, and this seems to be like these small tablets that you're supposed to stir into the gel mix. This looks super weird, so I'm supposed to eat this without chewing those small tablets. and you're supposed to take it in 90 minutes before your race or hard workout. Okay, so let's eat this thing. What we runners do to run a little bit faster. I'm actually a bit skeptical to this whole thing, but I will talk more about that after I have tried it myself. So let's first taste test. Doesn't taste bad, doesn't taste that much at all, but it's super weird, like swallowing this thick gel and those small like white tablets in it, and not try to chew it at all. And this feels like a weird thing to eat. Yeah. Cheers. And it's actually quite like a substantial amount you have to eat. All done. So let's wait for 90 minutes and go for a nice interval session. It has gone 90 minutes now, so let's crush this workout. Yeah, that felt good. Of course, it's impossible to evaluate from just a single workout how effective this is. That the studies I referred to did a much better job at doing. But it felt good. I ran a bit faster than I thought I could have done on a session like this. I averaged 3:15 on my 1 kilometer repeats. Maybe the placebo helped me a bit after taking that sodium bicarbonate, the feeling that I should run a bit faster now. And I can report no stomach issues whatsoever. So why am I still a bit skeptical to this whole thing? So after testing this out myself and reading all of that evidence, it for sure seems like it has a clear performance boosting effect. But even if it is a major difference for elite runners, most of us just enjoying running and training, those gains does not make a big difference. And of course we could get way more performance boost from just training more and smarter. But if you're into tweaking all little things that can make you perform better, and things like this motivates you in a way and helps you in your running journey, maybe it's worth giving it a try. But here's what I don't like about it and why it might change running in a way. Although there are no studies yet on it, in theory using this on a regular basis in your training should allow you to train on a bit of a higher level and develop faster. And I've heard of many elite runners starting to use this on a regular basis in their training. And some also claim that they recover faster after a hard workout after using sodium bicarbonate. And this gets me a bit worried, because I like that running is a simple and fair sport. And if this becomes the case, that to be able to get a competitive advantage you need to take sodium bicarbonate on a regular basis, I think it's a shame, because it also quickly becomes expensive, since just one serving of these things costs $15, which might give runners with a lot of money a competitive advantage. I will at least not use this on a regular basis myself, but maybe before a race, because I think it's fun to try to optimize everything in a racing scenario. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this, and if you want to watch another video about a really potent legal performance enhancer, you can click here. Train smart, have fun, and I will see you in the next video.